Okay, okay, we're live. Okay, so we're live. Hello, everyone. Do you ever wonder what it's like to know what it's like? Do you ever get concerned about how to raise your kids and empower them so they can handle challenges because you know what it's like to go through them and you see them struggle? Where we're having a conversation today on tips how to raise kids that can handle tough times and tough situations. And I'm having this talk with none other than Dr. Maria Duroseau.
Beautiful. There we
Duroseau.
go. Hello.
How are you doing, Doc? Good to
Doing
have
well. Thank you, Dr. Olabintan. I posted on my social media, any time spent with you is a gift. So it's my
Oh
pleasure to
my
be on.
goodness. Oh my goodness. I am honored. Love your work. Our last conversation was very powerful. And so we're doing this again today. And for those of you who are watching, hashtag live, hashtag replay, please invite your friends. These conversations are happening, these challenges are happening every day. We see our kids. And so we're going to talk with an expert. She's a pediatrician. She's a phenomenal human being. She's also a certified parenting coach, and she has a deep passion for supporting children and families. So come with your questions. We'll answer them live. And we're doing this to empower the next generation and also to help ourselves too, because we're happy when our kids are happy. So, Doc,
Yeah.
could you please introduce yourself? Who are you? What you do? And why you do the things you do?
So you've already done most of the introduction. I'm a pediatrician, have worked in peds for over 10 years. That's crazy to say. Parenting coach, etc. But I'm also a mother. So I'm also doing this along with everybody else.
Okay, I like it. Thank you so much. And so you can relate to some of the things we're talking about. So why is it important for us to do this? Let's start there. Tough times. Do we need to tell them what the world is like? Do we let them find out themselves? Like what are your thoughts on why it's important for us to build, let's say, resilience when it comes to our kids?
So I'm also an avid gardener. And I wanted to use this analogy because it's spring now and I'm outside planting and I'm enjoying it very much. There's a process called hardening when you're taking your seedlings out from outside, where you're starting them in your house, whatever room, and you take them outside. It's called hardening. And so hardening is a process by which you gradually expose them to the elements. Why is it important? Because they're going to live out in the elements. So they do need to be exposed, right? But there's such a thing called transplant shock that if you don't expose them, you don't do this hardening, when they do go outside, they don't know how to survive. And most likely your seedlings will die. So this is why it's important. Our children at some point are going to live out in the elements, the world. And we don't want them to have transplant shock. So we want to gradually expose them. And a key I would also say is gradually expose them to some of these elements and incrementally as well. One of the important parts, everybody will think sunshine, you don't want them to, die. So you want them to learn how to use sunshine, etc. Watering too. But one of the important elements is the wind. They need to have wind blow on them a little bit at a time because that's what strengthens their stems. So resilience is important. They have to learn how to live in the elements, and our role is to be that wind or allow that wind, that guidance, and that exposure.
Wow, to be the wind or allow the wind.
Yes,
Oh,
that doesn't feel good, right?
whew. Wow. It doesn't, but wow, that's a very powerful analogy. It doesn't feel good because you want to protect. You want to, I don't want you to go to the pain I'm going through or I've gone through. So we want to protect for as long as possible. So, but I love the explanation, gradual, and it's necessary for them to thrive and to grow. The hardening process. Okay. Let's talk practical tips now. Like, so can we give scenarios? Let's talk for the parent who's like, okay, I understand as an adult that challenges bring out the best in me. I don't like that that's a process. But challenges typically make you a stronger person, maybe stretch you a little bit, but don't break you. So let's talk practical steps. Can we give examples like um, when it comes to, let's say, um, conversation bullying,
Yes.
kids being mean? Like, why would they say that? Or, mom, am I really adopted? Someone said I was adopted.
So here's one of the things first to resist when your child comes to you or you see your child struggling with something. Keep in mind that this is actually part of life. One of the things we get caught up as parents is that we focus a lot on making our kids happy. We want them to be happy. And so anything that we're doing, we're jumping in to try to make them happy. Let go of that. Part of parenting is to allow them to have the full experience of being human, and that doesn't mean that they're always going to be happy. So when you see them struggling, pause. Don't do the first thing that most parents want to do is jump in and fix it. So then now when you come to this bullying, why are they saying this and so on, you can take another angle with it and just kind of help them say what is in their hearts. How did you think that they were bullying you? What did they say? How did that make you feel? And you just kind of let them just share their story. And so as much of it as they can share, now you're building connection there. So
Hmm.
that alone actually can be impactful. And you didn't even get to the fixing of anything part.
Wow.
Then another thing too that you can do, and you have to kind of gauge where the conversation is going, sharing some of your experiences too, like, wow, I can understand feeling that way. I
Hmm.
remember XYZ. It didn't feel good, huh? No, it
Hmm.
didn't. Where in your body did it not feel good? Did it not feel good in your chest? Did it not feel good in your belly? Where? And then you even give them a tool without it being preachy, like, let me tell you what to do when you feel like this. I feel sometimes when somebody is saying something that hurts me, I feel it in my chest or I feel tight in my throat, like I can't breathe.
Hmm.
And so then I take a minute and I just try to breathe it out. Or I think of something else. So then you've introduced a tool. So that's a very practical thing that you can do in the moment of just helping them regulate their nervous system. So that's one thing you can do in the moment.
Okay, so you mentioned the mistake of moms. No, I said mom. Sorry, guilty conscience. Parents always trying to jump in and save and fix. And you mentioned about the priority is not always making our children happy. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Mm.
But you're not saying that I'm out to get you or make your life miserable. It's the objective is what's best for the child, even if it doesn't make the child happy.
Even if it doesn't make you happy
Make me happy. Okay.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's fair. Now, what are other common mistakes that parents do that could affect um the process of helping our children be a little more resilient or be able to handle tough times?
So you've heard of the helicopter parent. These
Mhm.
days we have a snowplow parent. And so a snowplow is the one that goes ahead and clears the way. And
Wow.
so we talk to the teachers, we talk to the other parents, we talk to the other kids, we talk to the coaches, we email, we do all of these things so that, their path will be as smooth as possible and they don't encounter any bumps. And so that part hinders because if they never encounter any wind,
Hmm.
they don't get to harden. Now, of course, this is within reason. You know your child, depending on what age they are, but allow them to experience a little bit of frustration. Because when they experience a little bit of frustration, that's when they can start kicking in to problem solving, and you can teach them that. Allow them to have some frustration because then they can get to the other side of it. And then you know how we say, but did you die? They can experience that and you come back to them and say, hey, that was unpleasant. And I'm so proud of you. You're still standing on the other end of it, right? Because if you look back at any of the things that you've experienced, you remember that reward or that just like, man, I can't believe that was the same me 5 years ago.
Hmm.
Man, I can't believe that I'm actually on the other side of this. But you can only build that if you actually had something to go through, something that pushed you, something that stretched you. So we need to allow them these opportunities, you know. So what does that look like? It looks like over the weekend we went to soccer games, we drove to another town, stayed in a hotel, whatever, and backpack was supposed to have been packed, but didn't have socks in there. And I was like, well, you got to go talk to coach and check in with coach to see if they'll let you get on the field if you're not dressed out. I could have walked over to coach and said, hey, I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened, my husband's out getting socks for my child, but I didn't. I let my child go to the coach and explain this, and I'm sure that didn't feel good inside. Explained it to coach, who understood. And, it might seem like a small thing, but he was so proud running back to me to tell me he talked to coach and he worked it out. So it could be even little things like that. Sometimes as parents, we think like big teaching moments, where there's a choir singing and all this, but it's these little things. It doesn't have to be a sit down and let's lecture, but just in these little moments, things like that, because now he knows I can talk to coach.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I like how you said essentially allow kids the opportunity to problem solve. It's not like we're saying, well, you're just going to leave them out on their own. We're saying, let me see you navigate this, and then I'll jump in when I need to. So that's a powerful, powerful, powerful. And so, okay, I like the comment that's being made. Thank you so much, Miss Marianne. Very good reflection. She said, if our kids are given so many privileges and not a comparable amount of responsibilities, it's a very widespread problem in our society. So we raise kids who are entitled and fail or fall in the face of opposition. And studies have actually shown that kids who have more responsibilities, who have tasks, who tend to face a little challenge and have to maneuver, they actually do better long term, especially in the
Absolutely.
age of social media. Um,
Absolutely. I 100% agree. It's a conversation two of my friends and I were having, just this comfort that kids live in. And then the interesting thing is we, in my case, moved to this country to achieve this dream and to provide all the things for them. And so now some of it backfires a little bit because they have such a life of comfort, which is what I wanted. But at the same time, having such a life of comfort doesn't allow them to experience certain things that will build resilience.
mm,
And so it's part of that. Like sometimes you even have to curate experiences where they feel a little uncomfortable, and so I'll send them into a store. Of course I'm there by the window watching, but they make their own order, and it's kind of awkward to go in there and talk and mom, you do it. No, but they go in, they make their own order, they have my card, and I'm watching, and they swipe it and they come out and they ordered their own food. It doesn't seem like a big thing, but slowly these little moments are just giving them this sense of I can actually do something, I can actually fix something. I can actually, and this is what you need with resilience, the ability to bounce back. And how do you know you have that ability to bounce back if you've never done anything that kind of stretched you and you're able to get through? So then you start having an understanding of your abilities, not the fact that you get everything right all the time, but your ability to actually stick to something and keep going with it.
mm, mm,
And that's an important tool to be able to have. And that's an important thing for us to be able to teach kids so that they can have that inner knowing of I can do things. And so things may not go exactly the way that I want them to, but I know that I can think through something.
mm, mm. It's almost like teaching them how to brainstorm through challenges. Because the truth is, and for all of you watching, the truth is life is guaranteed to have challenges. No matter what money bracket you're in, age bracket, like it's guaranteed to have challenges. And so what we're doing here is having conversations on how to empower our kids sooner than later. So when those challenges come, they don't fall back or um, they don't crumble. That's for lack
Right.
of a better word.
Right.
So For the parent who's watching, who's like, but there's going to be lashback. There's going to be like, oh, but as a parent, that's what you're supposed to do. And what if it's hard to watch? Like, how do you advise that parent who's watching, who's saying, well, there's going to be lashback. This is new. Well, you fix it. I'm the fixer. That's part of how I show love. That's my love language. Um, why should we reconsider our approach?
You want to reconsider your approach because at the end of the day, what seems like it's a good thing is actually handicapping them in a sense. You won't always be there. At least you shouldn't always be there. They're going to go and live their own lives. And at some point, you won't be there available for them. And if you haven't allowed them the opportunity to build these skills, they're going to have a tough time. I love nature, and so a lot of my analogies come from that. And if you've seen what a butterfly goes through as it's coming out of its chrysalis and so on, there's a story that says somebody watched the butterfly struggling to get out, and then they finally because it was agonizing to watch it, took a pair of scissors and clipped it open. And then when it came out, it wasn't a butterfly because it's part of that squeezing through and coming out that allows it to be a butterfly. So as well-meaning parents, if we go in there and we snip the chrysalis open every time, they may not actually end up becoming the butterfly that they were meant to be. And, kind of along those lines too, when we're talking about just ways that you shift your parenting a little bit is praising the effort as opposed to praising the result.
The outcome. I like
and
that.
so that's sometimes where that lashback comes from the kids, because all they've ever heard from us is praising that A plus, praising that home run, praising that whatever. So then they're wondering, like, do I lose that love, affection, praise, or whatever if I don't get that big thing? So I want you to help me so I can get that A plus, because if I don't get that A plus, I don't know how life shakes out, right? But then if we shift and we praise, hey, I really like how you stuck with that, even though I could see you were really stressed out. I really like the way you stayed in the game, even though you were losing. I really like how you stayed up late working on that thing, even if it didn't get you the grade you wanted. I like that you stuck with it. And so now when we're praising the effort, even if the outcome isn't what it is that, all of us wanted, maybe, they're less afraid. They're less worried. They're less anxious because they're like, hey, I know that they're going to appreciate the effort I put into this rather than this result.
I love it. I love it. This is really good. I think for adults. For adults, right? This is really good. Sometimes the outcome, we throw everything, throw the towel. Oh, it didn't come out the way I want. But who you became in the process of the consistency is worth it. And so we're not talking about psyching our kids and oh, that was so. I mean, you're the best player in the world. That's not what we're saying. It's seeing the effort and seeing things to encourage them with, even while nurturing those habits that make for better outcomes later. So not always getting so fixated on the outcomes.
Even celebrating failure. That's a hard one for me.
Yeah.
Type A, immigrant parent. Oh, that's a hard one for me. But now, we get a grade that comes home and it doesn't look quite the way that I want it to. Then I say, you know what, that's great, because then it means I'm not wasting my money. If I was paying my money for that school and you came home with A's all the time, then you're not learning anything. And so, my kids, when I first started saying that, the kids were a little like unsure if I was serious or not. But I've started consciously doing that. Hey, that's great, because then it means that you're learning something. We started violin and my daughter was a little stressed out about a piece that she needed to play. And she's like, well, I don't know how to do it. I said, okay, that's fantastic. Otherwise, I wouldn't need to pay violin, right? So in a laughing kind of way, but celebrating some failures, like, yeah, I'm okay that you don't know how to do it, because that's the whole point.
This is good. This is good. All right, Doc, next question. What are some daily habits or routines that can help build mental toughness in children?
I think it will go back to the celebrating failure. That part is key because kids, there's a lot of stuff that happens that they didn't quite hit what they were supposed to hit. And so finding ways to celebrate that failure with them. And I say celebrate, we're not like doing a dance or whatever, but just acknowledging that there's been a failure, but that's the point of learning, right? And then here's another one too, talking out the a valid experience, but just talking it out with them, like, if something bad did happen, you walking, saying, well, could there be a different way that you could look at this?
So like brainstorm.
Maybe, yeah, could there be a different way that you could look at this? Or no, I never said that one day, but I could share with you that I think that's really amazing that you were able to do XYZ, So if, who knows, we forgot something or whatever it is, this is like, log it in your mind as an opportunity to learn, rather logging it in your mind as a failure or that something bad went. Because when we allow them or help them see what it is that's going on, and we help them frame it in a certain way, they'll store it a certain way. And when they store it a certain way, they'll remember it a certain way, So if a friend wasn't kind to them, or they found out that somebody really isn't their friend, or talking about them on social media or whatever, like, what a gift that they were able to show you who they are. It hurts that they did that, but I mean, it's good to know that somebody is not your friend, so that you don't spend your effort there, So instead of logging their memory as these friends were talking about them or whatever, they can log it now as, this person showed me a gift. They showed me who they really were. And that makes a difference.
Wow, it's a gift. Sometimes conversations around as kids get older and they hear about some of the bad things that happen in the world, and they're like, they get scared. Any thoughts or feedback on emotional intelligence when it comes to that? Having to deal with bad news, or the when the age of innocence is gone, right? And some of those conversations are tough. I have to be honest with you, where it's like, oh my God, why would someone do that? Why would someone do that to another person?
Yeah, a couple of different things. One, my worldview includes the Bible. I'm a Christian, so we do talk about conversations that way, from, there's sin in the world, et cetera, et cetera. Also, the four agreements are fantastic, and I don't think that anyone's ever too young to learn the four agreements. One of them being, don't take things personally, like whatever people do really comes from them and what's happening inside of them, and it manifests in the world, but it typically doesn't have anything to do with you. So sometimes them understanding that there's nothing about them, it's entirely what's going on with that person. We talk tough conversations. We talk socioeconomic problems. We talk, how racism impacts life. We talk about how finances and poverty in the U.S. impact people's choices. And so I typically don't give flip answers to the kids if they ask, hey, mom, how come somebody would do that? And I say, you know what? It might have been tough growing up as they did. Depending on, what kind of situation they had, their parents might have needed to work a lot. So they might not have had that supervision and someone to talk to them like I'm talking to you. So when it comes to them making good choices, they may not have had somebody to guide them, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if I would have turned out differently if I grew up like them. So really opening up and talking about some of those bigger topics in the context that they arise, and giving a little bit more background to it, sometimes helps them actually even start thinking about bigger pictures. If we're talking resilience, they can start thinking about things from that perspective, and it helps them not take things so personally, or it helps them understand that it's not, it's not unsolvable things, or it's not things that they can impact at a micro level.
Hmm. So almost like teaching them how to fight pick their battles. Teaching them how to pick their
Pick their
battles.
battles, understanding what the battle is,
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. This is really, really good. One last question. Any for that parent who's watching, who's saying, okay, I get it. It looks like I may have been a snowplower parent, or I've been a helicopter mom or dad. Um, any final advice for that parent who's like, I want to raise emotionally strong and resilient kids, and I grew up in a tough situation, maybe, and I don't want my kids to ever go through that because I know what happened to me or how I turned out. Any final words of advice to that parent?
One of my favorite taglines: becoming the best version of yourself is one of the best gifts you can give your children. I would recommend that you kind of explore some of the things that you're really afraid of that will happen to your kid, and settle that within yourself, just because if you don't have those things sorted out for yourself, you'll end up parenting for yourself rather than parenting for the child.
Woo!
And that distinction. If you're parenting your child to allay your fears, to allay your stresses, to achieve your dreams, to et cetera, you may end up parenting more for yourself, which that would be better worked out in therapy or whatever it is, so that you come as a cleaner, come through with a cleaner thought, cleaner parenting for your child, and you're able to see what it is that they need because you're seeing them rather than you're processing your own thing.
Wow. That's deep.
That's a lot of work too.
That's that's deep. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I want to pull out my hair. Wow. Wow. Be very careful that you're not projecting. Um, Make sure you're parenting for your child, the best outcome for your child, decoding their unique path, and not projecting yourself or your fears, your past, your failures on them. That's powerful. God help us. God help us. That's
I
deep.
did want to also add one thing.
Mhm.
I know I asked them that I was preparing for this talk, and I asked them, if there's anything they thought that we as parents have done to help them with resilience. My daughter had this thing at school where somebody with a yo-yo was talking about resilience, and so I asked her, do you know what resilience is? She goes, yeah, it means to bounce back. And if you notice, when a yo-yo is going down, it does eventually come up, and then it goes down, and it eventually comes up. My son's response when I asked him, what have we done as parents to help build resilience? He says, it's because I know that home is normal when I get back. And so if we have built a place for them to have unconditional positive regard, it doesn't matter what happens out there, because I know I can come back and home is normal. Just like that yo-yo goes down on a string and it comes back. They know that with whatever's happening, they have a place where they get unconditional positive regard, and that gives them the strength to be able to bounce back. So that's another thing, another reason for becoming the best version of yourself, because if you're in a place that you can give your kids that unconditional positive regard, that helps them face whatever it is that's happening out there, because they can come back. And we all need that, a place where we can come back and we get unconditional positive regard.
Even as adults. Wow, that's powerful. More important as a child. Wow.
Yeah.
Keep home as normal, as base, a place where everyone, the kids especially, can get unconditional positive regard. Dr. Duroseau, it's always a pleasure. Sometimes I can't ask the next question because I'm still reflecting on the last comment. But this has been so powerful. And for those who are watching, who are like, Doc, do you have a podcast? Do you have a thing that where can people contact you to get more information? To work with people?
You were saying earlier, I pop in and out of social media. So Facebook, really, because I'm old school and my kids laugh, Facebook really is the thing that I know how to navigate the best. At some point, I'll get back to posting videos on there. I do respond. People will send me messages, and I'll respond and we'll chat. Limit how many I do just because I think that's what I can do right now. But I'm happy to.
Oh, did I lose you?
I can still hear you.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay. So Facebook
Sorry,
is
I
where
hear
people
you.
can find you?
Yes.
Facebook. Okay. All right.
Facebook.
Doctor.
I do have a book on Amazon people, but it's my passion things that I'm talking about ADHD. And the book is this going to end? It's focused on the younger kids, just kind of understanding ADHD and helping give parents.
Okay. Is this going to end well? And I'm going to put the link in the chat. And then for everyone, please look her up, Dr. Marie Duroseau on Facebook. And also, I put in her book link. It's on Amazon. You can get a copy and read. And oh, did you leave? Oh,
Here, yeah,
okay.
I don't know, it kicked me out for a second, but I'm back.
Okay. I was going to say, I was telling them, the name, how to spell it. So that way you can look for her. Doc, you should go speak, man. I'm putting you on blast. You should really speak. You should really go on speaking events so you can empower parents. No pressure. I did put it on live. You're on blast live, so my bad.
I know.
Um,
Eventually, that is actually one thing I want at some point to do some kind of parenting conferences and so on. Eventually.
yeah, for the future generation, for the next generation of kids, this is powerful. And like I said, I put her link at the bottom on Amazon. This is going to end well, Dr. Duroseau, so you can get it on Amazon. Grab your copy. But Dr. Duroseau, I do appreciate you coming. Thank you so much for doing this. This was powerful. For those of you who are watching, can you drop comments? I appreciate her. Let's show her some love. She took her time this busy Tuesday evening to empower us, to advise, to encourage us on how to raise resilient kids, how to raise kids that can handle tough times. So please celebrate her in the comments, give her shout outs, and of course share this video with those who could watch, who could use this encouragement. Okay, even have to navigate parenthood. So Ms. Yinka says thank you so much. Gracie, good to see you. She says thank you. You're celebrated, Doc. I appreciate you. Okay.
My pleasure. Thank you. We celebrate you for doing this fabulous thing. I watch some of yours replay. I never reply hashtag. I should start doing it. Hashtag replay. But you host some amazing people, which goes to show, what kind of person you are to attract that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will have you again in a couple of months. No pressure. I know how to reach you.
You know where to find me.
Yes, I do. All right. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you. Share, comment, like. Please tag a friend who could use this. We are empowered to do better by our kids and not make the same mistakes our parents did. Bless your hearts. They meant well. Much love as always. You're looking for a thorough, a kind, a compassionate family physician to help you live long and well. I am she. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.